Hello beautiful people. So in today's video we are doing a comparison. So I have always loved the e.l.f. Beautifully Bare matte shadows, and there's 4 shades in this, and then Wet n Wild just recently came out with the liquid catsuit cream shadows. There's 4 shades in this one. The shade ranges are quite different. They have like about 2 similarities, 3 maybe, but we will go ahead and compare them. I'm going to do one side on one side, and then we'll do the same exact eyeshadow palette on each side, and we will discover which brand is best. So before we get into it, the Wet n Wild are $4.99 and the e.l.f. is $4 even. I've always really liked the e.l.f. ones a lot, like a lot. Like I've talked about them a lot, I've recommended them, and now people are talking about these ones saying they're so super cool, but these ones came out first, so I just wanted to like compare them to see who did it best. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch them so I can figure out which shades are the closest so that I can compare, but I'm already thinking that we have a close comparison in the shade from e.l.f. called Nude Linen and Sandcastles. These ones are kind of similar, so I'm going to go ahead and swatch them real quick. Alright, so this is them swatched together. Now I'm going to try and do this the best that I can. So that is the swatches. e.l.f. is on top, and then Wet n Wild is on the bottom. Now the Wet n Wild is a lot like wet, more liquidy, and the e.l.f. is more kind of a whipped formula. So the comparisons, you can kind of see there's some like 2 shades that are kind of close, and then there's 2 that are like completely different. There's a gray one in the Wet n Wild, a more brown kind of camel color, and then there's like a orangey and then a brown in the e.l.f. So I'm really excited to play with them. The ones that we're going to play with today are the ones at the end of each other. So this one is Sandcastles from Wet n Wild, and this is Nude Linen from e.l.f. And I'm going to put those ones on my lid today because they're the closest for comparison purposes. But I will put the links to them down below for the shades that we're talking about. I will just list those, and then I'll just put the links to the websites to the direct thing. Look down there and you'll know what I'm talking about. So on this side I'm going to do Wet n Wild, and this side I will do e.l.f. So let's go ahead, and then I'm going to grab 2 kind of brushes that are similar but not the same. So just to blend them out, because with the Wet n Wild ones, with the e.l.f. ones, I found that if you just kind of dabbed a little bit and rubbed them together, they did a really great job. So let's go ahead and apply this. So this is the Wet n Wild. I'm going to go ahead and take a brush, just very lightly blend it through your lid. Now I've always said that the e.l.f. ones, I'm going to say this throughout the video, get the names confused. I've always said that the e.l.f. ones could just be like super simple wash of color, like that nude eye, and you know, just kind of get up and go. Then the e.l.f. one, we'll apply that here. Alright, so I think I applied the wrong one to the lid. I think I was supposed to apply Camelback, and I applied Sandcastle. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Wet n Wild one off real quick with the white that I have, and go ahead and apply the other shade that I wanted to use in the first place. Yes, much better. They are super liquidy, way more liquidy than the e.l.f. Alright, so now I'm going to go in, and I do know, because these are a little bit more of a whipped formula, the e.l.f. ones, that you cannot layer them, but I'm going to try it with the Wet n Wild just to see the outcome, if you can get a darker tone. You know, I mean, what's it gonna hurt? So I just applied 2 more things, and I'm really just taking a light hand with this and like seeing how far I can blend it, because then that will really tell which ones we really like. Now I will kind of say that these ones have a little bit more like there's probably alcohol in these. We can look at the gradients and I will say whether they are or not, but it's kind of a little bit stinging / burning my eye. But it goes away kind of quickly, but I will just kind of note that if you have sensitive eyes. I also wear contacts, so that kind of is a bit alarming, I would say. So, from the reviews that I've seen other people do, people like to layer them and then put shadow on top. So the palette that I'm going to use is the Naked 3 palette today. The Naked Reloaded just came out, and I thought that would be fun to play with an oldie but a goodie. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take the color Nooner just for starting. I would take the color Linen, but I mean we already have color, so I figured I'd just go in with a darker shade. So I'm gonna take Nooner and just apply that in the crease just to see how shadow applies on each shadow, each cream shadow, how everything performs from there. That's the experiment we're doing. On the e.l.f. side, I'm just trying to build the color up and see what happens. Alright, so that is the color Nooner on each eye blended through. I like it. I feel like the Wet n Wild is a little bit more matte and dried down. This one kind of dried more of a cream. It's like softer. It's not as like a crispy matte. So far so good with the Wet n Wild side. So we're gonna go ahead and try. I'm gonna leave the crease how it is because I think that looks really just fine. And I'm gonna go ahead and just add a little bit of something just on the outer corner just to kind of spice it up a bit. I'm gonna take the color Liar. That's dusty. Mostly my fault though. I was kind of digging in there. Alright. Just to see how shadow layers on top of these buddies. So far so good with all the reviews that I've seen from the Wet n Wild ones. I haven't really seen very many people talk about the e.l.f. ones, so that's what we're doing here. As I'm looking at it, I'm kind of liking the way the e.l.f. one looks a little bit with the shadow. It just looks smoother. The Wet n Wild looks a little bit more crispy. So Wet n Wild, e.l.f. Wet n Wild, e.l.f. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a shimmer to the lid. Just to, gotta keep going with the flow. And I am going to add the color Burnout because it's party. See how shimmer lays down on top of these matte tones, you know, that's a good experiment, people. So far, I think they look kind of similar. I'm gonna get a mirror and look a little bit closer up and see. So the Wet n Wild side is, it looks fine. It just kind of looks like more kind of crispy. The shimmer is not like super prominent, and the shimmer is a little bit more prominent on the the e.l.f. side. So I'm gonna look at the ones that I have on my hand and I'm gonna kind of rub over them. So this is the e.l.f. Just kind of rub over. So not very much budging. So I'm gonna rub over the e.l.f. ones are already dried down matte. They're already flat, they're already dried down. So there are some spots on the Wet n Wild ones that are not so dried down, so it's going to, alrighty then, that's like super blending together. I did not expect it to be that blending together. Alright, well that happened. So I'm gonna wipe it off because it's kind of obnoxious on my hand. But the e.l.f. ones didn't move at all. I think that has to do with the fact that they're a little bit more of a whipped formula. They just, and I'm going to show you the doe foot on them just for funsies. So the doe foot on the, like a spongy one, doesn't kind of take off a lot of product because it's so flat, so each side kind of gets a little bit more product on it. Let me go ahead and cover it up guru style. So it's kind of flat, you can see, so it kind of gets more product on one side, so you're going to get more product out, which can be a good thing in some cases. But I think with this kind of a thing, you don't want too much, especially if it's a cream shadow and you're putting it on your eyelid. Not a lot of people have a lot of eyelid space, so this one is like the traditional kind of doe foot concealer doe foot, and it just gets that little bit on the end that you would need, so you can kind of get what you need and then apply elsewhere where you need it. So I mean, let's see, I'm trying to determine an opinion here. Now, okay, pros and cons each side. So the pro on this side is the color stuck down a lot more, but I think that's because it took a little bit longer for it to dry down. This one, the color did not stick on like a lot, but I've always kind of said it wouldn't be that great to put these over shadow. I feel like they just do really great on their own, but that's my opinion. So which one would I recommend? So if you're wanting to wear one just all by itself, all alone, just cream shadow blended and then out the door, I would recommend the e.l.f. ones because they dry down a lot quicker. They don't budge. I guess we could test out a spot. Let's go ahead and test out a spot just because of something that's a little bit not. I'm going to wipe the brush off a lot and then I'm going to put some down. So I'm putting down the shade Off the Grid. It's right here. And I'm just going to let that dry naturally. It's kind of I'm touching all the points here. These ones feel more liquid lipsticky than the other ones. These ones feel like a whipped liquid lipstick. So if you're trying to look for texture comparison, that's the one I would say. And Wild ones I would recommend if you want to put shadow on top of them. So like because they don't dry down super fast. Like this is still drying down. So, and I recommend them if you want to put them underneath shadow. Their shade ranges are kind of close together. I would say they're very they don't differ in too different of a way. What the e.l.f. ones kind of do, you can really see the contrast in them a lot better. So these are the e.l.f. ones. You can see the contrast in them is a lot greater. Like they have a really dark one and the lighter one. So I would say, which one do I prefer? I would probably prefer the e.l.f. ones over, because I just think cream shadow is supposed to be more on its own flat one shade. So it's dried down a little bit more, and I'm gonna go ahead and try to rub it. I'm trying not to go in all the way, but if I do, it's gonna go everywhere. So I would say there's more give time with the Wet n Wild ones. So go ahead and take your pick. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick the e.l.f. ones just for my preference. They're a little bit cheaper. The shade ranges differ a lot more. So if you're looking for something like dark, more pinky tone, orange, nude, you know, you're getting that. So I'm going to go and say that they're both great. They're not fails by any means, but they do perform differently and have different performance qualities. So I would say it's definitely up to you. What do you want to do? Want to wear a single all by itself or under shadow? Pick your picks. So that's the end of this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I will talk to you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.